On Tuesday, I head back to school. The air is crisp, and I can hear the chatter of my classmates as I walk into the classroom. Today feels a bit different. There's one student in our class who stands out because he's quieter than everyone else. His name is Jin, and he comes from South Korea. He often sits at the back watching everyone else interact and laugh. It's clear he wants to join in, but he seems unsure. When our teacher, Ms. Adams, asks if we have any questions, Jin raises his hand. His voice is soft, almost hesitant. "I have a question," he says. He explains that he struggles with pronunciation. "I know my pronunciation isn't good," he admits, looking down at his desk. "I just don't know how to get better." You can see he's worried. He doesn't speak much in class because he fears others will hear him and judge his accent. Jin shares that he spends a lot of time reading books and watching movies in English. He understands everything perfectly, but speaking is a different story for him. "I want to improve," he says, his eyes full of hope. "Is there anything I can do?" Ms. Adams smiles warmly at him, sensing his struggle. "Of course, Jin. Let me share some tips on pronunciation and how to practice. There's a great technique I teach all my students that can really help you improve." The whole class leans in, curious about what she will say next. I feel excited for Jin. He deserves this chance to shine. As Ms. Adams begins explaining her technique, I can see Jin's face light up. His confidence seems to grow with every word she shares. It's inspiring to witness his determination. I wonder how far we can all go in this journey of learning together. The bell rings, signaling the end of class, but I can't shake the feeling that something special is just beginning for all of us. As I stood there in the busy airport, a wave of excitement washed over me. I was finally heading to England, ready to learn English. It felt like a dream come true, but I also felt a little nervous. You see, many students like me struggle with pronunciation. I knew this from my friends back home. When we speak, we have to move our mouths and use the muscles inside. It's something we all do, right? But here's the tricky part. When I spoke English, I often used those same mouth muscles the way I did in my native language. This led to my pronunciation sounding different from how the native speakers said the words. I noticed this problem not just in myself, but in many students around me. It seemed almost everyone had a little bit of an accent or made small mistakes. Sometimes it made me feel better to know I wasn't alone. Most of the time, people understood what we were trying to say, even if we didn't sound perfect. That was a relief. Still, deep down, I wanted to improve. I wanted my pronunciation to be clearer and more confident. I remembered my teacher mentioning a great technique that could really help with this. She talked about practicing simple phrases and listening closely to how native speakers pronounce them. It sounded easy enough, but I knew it would take time and effort. I was ready for that. As I took my first steps into this new city, I felt a mix of excitement and a little fear. The air was fresh and I could hear the chatter of people all around me. I imagined myself walking through the streets, trying to order food or asking for directions. Would I be brave enough to speak? Would I be able to practice my English with locals? The thought made my heart race. Every corner I turned felt full of possibilities. I imagined meeting other students, sharing stories about our lives, and helping each other with our English. I hoped to find a cozy cafe where I could sit and practice speaking. I wanted to dive into conversations, even if I made mistakes. After all, that's how we learn, right? As I moved through the airport and stepped outside into the bright sunlight, I could feel the excitement bubbling up inside me again. The streets were alive with sounds, cars honking, people laughing, and the distant sound of music. This place felt vibrant, and I couldn't wait to explore. Little did I know this journey would be full of surprises, challenges, and lessons that would help me grow. What stories would I uncover? What new friends would I make? I was ready to find out. I learned about a cool technique called shadowing, and I was really excited to try it. The name itself sounded interesting. Shadowing is super simple. When you practice shadowing, you just copy the sounds you hear right after you hear them. It's like being a parrot, but a smart one. Think about how children learn their first language. They listen to their parents and copy them over and over again. They do this until their pronunciation is spot on. I realized that I could learn English pronunciation the same way, and that made me hopeful. So here's what you can do with shadowing. First, you need a video or audio recording. It should be slow enough that you can understand it well. Then, when you listen, you just copy what you hear. It's really that easy. I couldn't believe I'd never thought of this before. I felt like I had found a secret weapon to help me improve. Our teacher had a great idea. She went to www.youtube.com to look for videos on the shadowing technique. It was exciting to see her enthusiasm. She found a really good one where they explained shadowing step by step. We all gathered around to watch. The video showed someone speaking clearly, and it was perfect for practice. Everyone was focused, and I could see the excitement on my classmates' faces. After the video, our teacher said, "Okay, let's give it a try." We all looked at each other, a mix of nerves and eagerness buzzing in the air. We paired up and decided to try shadowing for about 3 minutes. I picked a section from the video that I thought I could handle. I listened carefully, and as soon as the speaker said a sentence, I repeated it right away. It felt strange at first, but soon I started to get the hang of it. I could hear my classmates laughing and chatting as they tried it too. It was fun to see everyone making silly mistakes but also really trying hard. I felt a bit more confident as I spoke the words. Each time I repeated a sentence, it felt like I was getting closer to sounding like a native speaker. I could feel the energy in the room. After 3 minutes, our teacher clapped her hands and said, "Great job, everyone. How did it feel?" I smiled, feeling proud of myself. I wanted to keep going. I could already imagine how much better I would get if I practiced this technique every day. I was ready for more practice and more challenges. The journey was just beginning, and I was eager to dive in. What other techniques would we learn? What would I discover about myself along the way? The adventure was just starting, and I couldn't wait for what was next. After our shadowing session, our teacher turned to us with a bright smile. "You know," she said, "shadowing is also great for preparing for a presentation in English. If you want your pronunciation to sound as close as possible to native speakers, this technique can really help. Before your presentation, find a quiet place where you can be alone. Spend about 10 minutes shadowing. Trust me, it will make a big difference in your pronunciation." I was really intrigued by this idea. I hadn't heard about using shadowing for presentations before, and it felt like a useful tool I could add to my practice. When the lesson ended, I felt excited but also a bit nervous about how I would use this technique. I wanted to get better. As I left the classroom, I decided to check out some activities at school. I headed straight to the reception desk, where a friendly lady was working. I approached her and asked, "Excuse me, are there any sports activities here at school?" She looked up with a smile and replied, "Yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5 o'clock. My heart raced at the thought of joining a sports team. Playing sports could be a great way to meet new friends and practice my English in a fun setting. I thought about how much I loved playing football back home. Would I be able to join the team? Would I be good enough? I asked her, "Can I join the football team? I really want to play." The lady nodded and said, "Of course. Just show up at 5 o'clock and they'll welcome you." That made me feel so happy. I couldn't wait to be part of the team, to run around on the field, and to cheer with my teammates. I left the reception feeling energized. Not only was I learning English, but now I was going to play football too. I imagined myself on the pitch, kicking the ball and communicating with my new friends. This would be a perfect chance to practice my English while doing something I loved. With a spring in my step, I made my way to the cafeteria. I thought about what my day would be like. I could practice shadowing before the training, and maybe even talk to some teammates afterward. I wanted to soak in every moment of this adventure. What else would I discover in England? Would I make lasting friendships? I felt ready for whatever was coming next. I was feeling really happy as I walked toward the football training. Sports have always been a big part of my life. They bring me joy, and I love the energy of being part of a team. When I arrived at the training field, I was excited to see so many players from different countries. It felt like a mini world gathering. There were players from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. Each person brought their own style and energy to the game. I couldn't wait to get to know them better.
As the training began, I felt a rush of adrenaline. The coach was enthusiastic and motivated us to do our best. I loved how we worked together, passing the ball and shouting encouragement. Everyone was friendly, and it felt great to be part of this team. I started to chat with a few players between drills, practicing my English as we talked about our favorite teams and players. They were curious about my home country, and I enjoyed sharing stories. I was also really grateful for my time in England. It was starting off wonderfully, and I felt like I was fitting in. My teacher was great, always encouraging us to speak up and practice. Having supportive friends at the training made everything feel even better. We laughed, joked, and cheered each other on. It was just the kind of environment I had hoped for. Thinking about my journey, I realized how far I had come. I was learning not just the language but also making friends who shared my passion for football. It was an amazing feeling to be running on the field, kicking the ball, and hearing the sounds of laughter and excitement all around me. And as if that wasn't enough, I remembered that tomorrow I was starting my job. I felt a mix of excitement and nerves about that too. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like. Would my co-workers be friendly? Would I have the chance to practice my English even more? So many thoughts raced through my mind as I finished up training, feeling the sun setting behind the trees. I was grateful for this new chapter in my life. The adventure was just beginning, and I was ready for whatever came next. Who knew what stories and experiences awaited me? I felt eager to dive in and make the most of my time in England.